One.
Welcome back, everyone, to the second panel on the EU-Africa, the Post-Crisis Journey event. So I'm very happy to have the second panel where we're going to discuss issues related with food security. Food security is one of the most important topics at this hackathon. Over 70 teams have decided to work on this topic, highlighting how important it is for everyone working at the hackathon. I'm joined today by three distinguished speakers who will join me on a lively discussion about issues affecting Africa connected with food security. Allow me to introduce our panelists. Sheila Komen-Keino is the Regional Director for African Fertilizer and Agribusiness Partnership from Malawi. Prior to her current posting, she was Director of Programs in Malawi, and prior to working for the AFAP, Sheila worked for a number of institutions, including the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, and the World Agroforestry Center. Sheila, can you hear us? You're on mute, but I can see that.
I can hear you, thank you.
Super.
Yes, I can hear you, thank you.
With us as well, we have Jeremy Piga, who is the head of the World Food Programme Innovation Hub for Eastern Africa in Nairobi, Kenya. He has a strong passion for new ventures development, entrepreneurship, innovation for impact, inclusive businesses, and sustainable initiatives. Jeremy, are you with us?
I am, and a pleasure to be here today.
Super. And finally, we have Ape Omede, who is the CEO and co-founder at the Green Rise Hub. He is passionate about empowering entrepreneurs in the food, agriculture, and agtech sector. He is an alumnus of the University of New England and Sproutex Agtech Pre-Accelerator, both of them in Australia. Ape, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Super. So let's begin by each of you at home giving us a little bit of a background of your role and what work you're doing currently when it comes to food security in Africa. Sheila, perhaps we begin with you.
My name is Sheila Keino. I'm currently Regional Director at the African Fertilizer and Agribusiness Partnership, AFAP. I've worked on agriculture for a very long time. Actually, I was born into an agricultural family, so I do understand agriculture and the challenges very well. I have worked at the World Agroforestry Center, ICRAF, where there was a lot of research being done, so I worked very closely with scientists. I have worked at the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, which is AGRA, focusing on seed systems, covering 17 countries. So I have had exposure around the continent. And at AFAP, focusing on fertilizer and agribusiness value chains, have had the opportunity to also work across sub-Saharan Africa on this issue. So I have a great understanding of issues that particularly affect the smallholder farmer. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Jeremy, tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing at the World Food Programme.
Yes, thank you. So I'm leading the WFP Innovation Hub for Eastern Africa that we actually recently launched, so a couple of months ago. So the World Food Programme is a leading humanitarian organization with a double agenda of saving life and changing life. So we deliver food assistance in emergency, but we also work in many countries with communities to improve nutrition and develop food system. So I'm focusing on Eastern Africa, and it's one of the key regions where WFP operates. So even though it's home to only 4% of the world population, it accounts for around 20% of the total global number of acutely food insecure people. So the number of people facing food insecurity in the region actually increased significantly in 2020. So it went from roughly 24 million to 42 million, primarily driven by locust outbreak, COVID-19, severe flooding, and conflict and insecurity. So we know that to address the strong food security challenges that we face in the region, but also in the world and across sub-Saharan Africa, innovation is key. We need to challenge the status quo, and we need to operate differently. So that's why this innovation hub has been created. When we look at the root causes of hunger, we see that they are very diverse. It touches upon education. So this previous panel you had, it touched upon food system and food production. It touched upon access to water. So a lot of different topics, but food system is a core thematic focus that we have. So what we do more concretely is we source support through funding, global access to global network of experts, innovative startups that can help us reduce the gap towards a world without hunger. So we just, for example, closed an innovation bootcamp last week where we work with 10 startups, most of them focusing on food security. And we operate on the assumption that those startups can allow WFP to increase its programmatic efficiency, its reach, and that WFP can help those innovative solutions actually achieve stronger impact, because WFP has strong operation. They have deep field access. They have a strong network of cooperating partners. They have strong relationship with the government. They have strong expertise in certain areas. So we're looking at harnessing the synergy between the World Food Programme and the external innovation ecosystem.
Apet, tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing at the GreenRise Hub, and what's it all about?
Thank you very much, and welcome everybody. So my name is Apet Omede, and I work in the interface between research and innovation. And from the angle of research, I work in the animal industry, where my main focus is developing strategies for the animal nutrition industry, especially with respect to early nutrition in monogastric animals. So as a result of that, I'm currently also working as a Marie Curie Fellow at Agriculture and Food Development Authority in Ireland. But on the innovation aspect, I lead the team at the GreenRise Hub. And the GreenRise Hub is specifically an agri-food tech focused innovation hub, where we help to accelerate and incubate agri-food tech startups and entrepreneurs with the main goal or main vision of empowering them to build sustainable agri-food businesses that will contribute to food security, sustainable economies, and empowerment of young people. And in the past months, we've been working to achieve that. We've had the opportunity to run some training programs for, excuse me, some training programs for young people who are working in agri-food tech entrepreneurs. Sometime in February this year, before COVID set in, we had the opportunity to train young people to prepare them to submit applications to the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program, those who are working on agri-food tech solutions. And between June till October, we had the opportunity to work with 14 agri-food tech startups to incubate and accelerate them to build their businesses. We brought in young people with ideas stage businesses, and those who are at the early stage businesses to give them access to business development trainings, mentoring opportunities, and network to potential funding opportunities as well. And just about 2 weeks ago, we concluded another aspect of our program that we engage in to help empower young people to contribute to food security, which is the Future Agro Challenge, where we had about eight young startups come on board to receive intensive mentoring opportunities and have opportunities to pitch their ideas to judges as well. And a winner emerged who will have an opportunity also to get involved in the Global Agripreneur Summit early next year. And that will also give him enough access as well to potential investors and network with other stakeholders in the ecosystem. So basically, our work at the Green Rise Hub is to support agri-food tech-specific entrepreneurs to build sustainable businesses that will contribute to food security and sustainable economies across Nigeria, and hopefully in the future, we'll extend it to other parts of Africa.
Thank you so much for that. Let me start by trying to give our viewers a bit of an understanding of the main issues surrounding food security in Africa. Obviously, food security in Africa was already a big issue before the pandemic settled in, and perhaps with the pandemic, and I think Jeremy already highlighted some of the issues connected with with the locust and some of the recent developments in Africa, it probably has been made worse. But I want to get the people at home also to understand what is the status of food security in Africa, and what are the most pressing issues, in your view, affecting food security or insecurity in Africa. Sheila, perhaps we begin with you. Sheila, sorry, you're on mute. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Food security has been an issue in Africa for a particularly long time, and in 2018, it was estimated that there was 239 hungry people. But as the conference has highlighted, those acutely suffering from food insecurity are about 73 million. So we have very many people going to sleep without adequate food intake. So Africa has a long way to go. The productivity of Africa in terms of food security is the least in the world, yet we have very arable land. And the issues that really are outstanding in terms of what the issues are around this are climate change. Climate change is at the forefront of this. Technology and education is an aspect that needs to be looked into. Poverty and finance. We find that we have very many impoverished people. We still have very many people in Africa who live below the $1 a day, and policies and infrastructure that can support food security. So this particular conference is focused on solutions around technology and digital solutions that are able to help Africa be able to grow more food. Africa remains a food importer, yet we have the most arable land in the world at the moment. So focusing on the particularly climate change. With climate change, technology can be used to support and bring forth solutions that farmers are able to access to be able to understand their farms better. We have weather indexes, we have crop right now through satellites, through using drones. We are able to understand better what the farms look like, what the particular ecologies look like, what the rain patterns are, and these need to be tapped into more. As Jeremy rightly said, we've had COVID-19 this year. We've had the locust invasion. We've had conflicts. We have the Sudan conflict. We have the Ethiopia-Tigray conflict right now. We have conflict in Nigeria, and there's conflicts around the continent that also affect food security. So there's very many, very many pieces that break down food security in Africa. Inputs, access to quality inputs is still an issue because of infrastructure to the last mile. We have farmers further inland who still only access indigenous inputs for them to grow. They don't have access to quality inputs. They don't have access to extension services. They don't have access to markets. So, and land also remains an issue. Many farmers don't have access to even more than like half an acre. And we expect farmers to be able to, first of all, feed their families, feed themselves, before they can even take some to market for surplus. So the issues affecting the African smallholder farmer particularly are very immense. We still have farmers not connected to digital solutions, so they're unable to access information around how their farms can produce better. So they are still relying on old age information to produce food. So there's still a lot of untapped opportunities in Africa. Infrastructure needs to get to the last mile for smallholder farmers to be able to tap into these technologies. And at the same time, most of the farming community still uses a basic phone. So even when we are trying to provide them with the information that they require, it has to be at that basic level. But we are seeing the growth of smartphones in this in Africa to be able to push some of these applications across. But for now, infrastructure policies, so governments need to be at the forefront of this. So yes, Africa remains food insecure. We have very many living below the poverty line, and the pressing issues are really climate change, political will, and access to technologies that are way out of reach for farmers in a language that they can understand. Thank you.
Yeah, Sheila, I think you touch upon very, very important topics, and I think it follows a little bit the same discussions that we heard yesterday at the opening, this sort of transversal issue of the digital divide, of how perhaps we have the tools, we have the information, but it might not reach the farmers when they need it because of a lack of access to the digital tools. Smart Africa yesterday was talking about their plan to make access to the internet and infrastructure investments in all of Africa, but it's not there yet, right? And I think we had this discussion prior with you as well, that we can't wait until every farmer in Africa has a smartphone. So Jeremy, I want to put it to you, since you're leading the hub, the innovation hub at the World Food Programme. We keep looking for technological solutions, but is technology the savior? Is technology the one who's going to make it all better, or are we putting too much faith in the role of technology here?
Yes, thanks a lot for this question, and Sheila, very good points that you mentioned. So I think before diving into this question, so the big difference between Europe or US, Northern America, and so on is that smallholder farming account for 80% of all farm, and most of the land cultivated in sub-Saharan Africa. Yeah, so food production rely a lot on smallholder farmers that have 1 to 2 acre in size in terms of land. So obviously reaching those people when level of digital penetration is actually low is very challenging. So one thing that we saw, and one thing that we are trying to leverage, is extension worker. So basically allowing those farmers to have access to those extension services, which are in a way account manager, to allow those extension workers to do the linkage with market, to do the linkage with input supplier. So I think those intermediaries in the food value chain are actually key in the medium term to allow us to bridge a gap. Yeah, because it's way easier. So usually the ratio is around 1 to 400. So one extension worker is going to take care of around 400 smallholder farmers. So this is a strong multiplier, and that's basically our main contact point when we try to introduce new technology that can increase the yield of the farmers, that can allow them quicker access to the market, that can allow them to find the best moment to sell their crop and produce and so on. So yes, short term, it's not possible to come up with digital solution for smallholder farmer. A lot of them have a very basic phone, or some of them might have smartphone, but with very limited capacity and limited internet coverage. But those extension service workers are actually key. And one other point is that when I look at the potential to increase food security, I think it's going to come from two streams. One is going to be technology, and maybe Africa is going to be able to make a big jump forward and basically accelerate through a lot of normal steps that economies in Europe actually went through. And the other one is just to look also at ancestral technology as a solution in the short to medium term before penetration is actually higher and we can bring digital services to those smallholder farmers.
Thank you, Jeremy, for that. Ape, what's your take on this? What's your take on the faith we have on technology to come in and solve this issue of food security? You probably have seen a lot of different ideas come through your accelerator. You have experience from accelerators outside of Africa. There are specific challenges with trying to get the technology solution off the ground in Africa. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I think that Jeremy has made some valid points in terms of technology and its implication in helping to drive food security in Africa. I believe strongly that technology would play a very major role as well in driving food security across the continent. I think a recent study last year showed that there are about 390 digital solutions in agriculture currently existing in Africa. I guess there will be more than that, because I'm sure that there will be some other people who didn't participate in the survey. But based on that particular survey, about 390 solutions have been identified across Africa as contributing to the digitalization of agriculture in Africa, hence bringing in technology to help to push forward food security. But then when you look at the rate of adoption of those technologies, they begin to find out that we still have a lot of work to do, because I think the same study showed that about 33 million farmers had registered or identified themselves to have heard about those solutions, but then less than 50% of them have actually been using those solutions in their production activities. So just about 42%. So that means that even though that there is a drive towards technology application and innovation in agriculture across Africa, we still have a lot of work to do to make everything come at par with the farmers who those solutions are being provided to or for. So the major challenge is that we need to really focus on what the farmers truly need to be able to develop solutions that they can adopt. Just like Jeremy mentioned, if you develop a solution that is going to be dependent on high tech or deep internet access and all that, and you want to reach rural farmers, you know that adoption will definitely be affected in one way or the other. So technology has potential to contribute to food security, but what we would encourage or would want to see in developing those technologies is to work closely with those farmers to truly identify what the needs are, and then try to tailor solutions that will meet those needs. And another challenge with technology being able to actually contribute to food security is access to data. There are people who have the skills, the talents, and the potentials to develop these technological solutions, but then there is also information that there is lack of access to data that had to do with soil quality, soil health, maps, to be able to understand trends in climate change and all that. There is also issue of skills of those who are involved in developing this technology. We need to also be able to upgrade the skills of the young people who want to go into development of this technology. So to be able to have technology contribute to food security, we need to first make sure that the solutions are in line with the needs of the farmers. We need to make sure that there are data that can be correlated with the solutions that want to be solved, and we need to make sure that there is enough skill in the sector that will actually be able to create those technological solutions to be able to provide such to the farmers that will need them.
Ape, let me widen the discussion a little bit, because I think in the past we've been talking so much about the farmers, and of course food security might start at the source. So we talk about the farmers a lot and how we can support them. But I want to talk about, I think Jeremy brought it up early as well. Food security is also connected with getting the food from the farmers through the whole supply chain until the table. So there are potentially supply chain issues that also could benefit from technology. And I'd like maybe we could highlight a few, because if you think of, we have 300 teams working at this hackathon, around 70 of them are working around food security. So there's a lot of issues connected with not just, the farmers and the production side, but also on the supply chain side. Perhaps COVID also had an impact there. Sheila, your thoughts on supply chain issues connected with food security?
I think there have been technologies around the world that Africa can borrow from. We look at farm to market, and we need to look at market to farm. The solutions that are globally available, which show that one can be able to tell, for example, where tomatoes are bought more or where onions are bought more vis-a-vis the other. And through tech, these can be honed in better. And so that informs the farmer what the market is looking for. So market-driven, farm-driven, the farmer gets to understand what the market needs based on sensors put out around, urban areas that can be able to feed back into farmers. An example, today we mostly like to aggregate for smallholder farmers at warehouses, but most farmers don't like to aggregate their produce at warehouses. They want to be in control of their warehouse. We have Uber services today that are able to take, pick a client from one point and drop them at the next point. In fact, along the way, there can be 2, 3, and 4 other people who can join in the Uber. Why can't we have Uber services for produce? Farmers should be able to access systems that tell them, in this location, this quantity of tomatoes or onions or maize or beans are required. And they're able to say, I have this kind of quality. And through digital solutions, they're able to sell this on a platform, and an Uber-like system should be able to pick up that produce from them, aggregate. As an aggregator, you go picking, and take it to your client base. So we need to start looking at those kind of solutions to support farmers, for them to know what the market requires, and solutions that can help them be able to get their produce right from their storage warehouses and into an Uber to take to the market. E-commerce, we see Amazon. People are able to order a book, they're able to order sneakers, they're able to order anything, and it lands at your doorstep. The market should be able to order, produce the same way. I should be able to order maize, I should be able to order my carrots or whatever it is I need to cook a meal through such systems. And I guess this is where innovation and in the digital space can be able to support this. When COVID hit, we saw farmers in Kenya, because they were largely affected to exporting their fresh produce, because Kenya is a large exporter of fresh produce. What did they do? Many of the farmers put the produce on the back of their cars and went and parked at roadsides and started selling their produce. If we had platforms that enabled them to be able to put this produce of theirs on those platforms, and someone picks it up in that Uber-like situation, then they're able to concentrate on growing the food and someone else manages the market. So e-commerce transport systems should be looked into to enable farmers get that produce to market, because we've seen supply chains affected for inputs and both at export. We've seen borders close, we've seen borders close down or slow down. So the effects on particularly smallholder has been felt. And in the coming days, by next year, we'll have a better feel of the impact, particularly at, again, that smallholder, because that's the level at which we deal with a lot ourselves. So these are the kind of challenges we have. Mobile money. Mobile money is another app that is really, really getting expanding in Africa. And I'll go back again to Kenya. Kenya has showcased that, and East Africa, because when you look at most of these tech solutions in agriculture, they are concentrated in East Africa. They need to be scaled out to the rest of Africa, but most of them are in East Africa. And there's very many startup tech companies on small time that have actually made successes and breakthroughs in East Africa, led by Kenya. Mobile money. Kenya has perfected the art of doing everything via mobile money. Today, you're able to order produce from a farm, you can order your honey, you can order commodities, you pay for it on mobile money, and you're able to book your produce. Either it can arrive at your doorstep or you can pick it up at the bus stop. These are still very informal, but they need to get more formalized, so that it's business to business, being able to send money through this kind of channels and being able to order online, to be able to receive what you've ordered without having to move. So there's a lot of untapped potential. And as Ape said, 33 million farmers are today connected on the system. We know Africa has more than 250 million farmers, smallholder at that level. So there's a lot of untapped potential that digital can get into to be able to serve smallholder farmers on the supply chain, both in, extension, and out. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you know, the supply chain issue. There's a lot of room to play for startups and innovation. Jeremy, I think the ball is on your side, because Sheila mentioned East Africa and specifically Kenya as being the sort of center for a lot of these innovations, and you know, the World Food Programme has a center there. Perhaps the pressure is also how to get that knowledge and solutions out of that East Africa. So I'll put it to you, not so much on the technical side, because I think Sheila made a very good point of highlighting, you know, Uber, Amazon, and these different applications. So that I assume there is role for technology, but maybe Jeremy, I'd like you to focus on perhaps the business models that would allow some of these startups, some of these innovations that could play a role in the supply chain issue. Are they available in Africa? Is the playing field there for these startups to come out of hackathons like this and programs like yours and accelerators like APE's accelerator to play in Africa?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Very good question. And Sheila, you mentioned a lot of very strong points on marketplaces, on traceability along the supply chain, and so on. And indeed, Kenya is a very fertile ground for innovation, where a lot of new product and approaches are actually tested. So again, you know, before I worked 5 to 6 years in the tech scene in Berlin. One of the main differences I see here in comparison to more developed ecosystem is that you can't just come up with a product innovation, right? So you need to have very strong operating model. You need to have very strong business model, because you're going to develop a solution and try to implement it in an ecosystem which is still imperfect and developing. Now, when we think about business model, especially like for smallholder farmer, that's something which is very difficult, because as both Ape and Sheila mentioned, they have very low income, like below $2 for a lot of them. So it's actually very difficult to monetize your innovation. So when you think about innovation, it's really key to try to think, okay, how is it going to work operationally? How do we manage to reach to such a high number of smallholder farmers? And the second thing is how and which part of the value chain can we actually monetize? And often the solution is going to be on monetizing the stakeholders that have the highest willingness to pay. So if we think about smallholder farmer being connected to marketplaces, maybe through extension worker from which larger food transformator or retailer and so on can source from. The monetization needs to happen on this side, because they have the one that have the purchasing power. So this is actually a key challenge in the region. We see a lot of very strong innovations that deliver very strong value to smallholder farmers, but they're actually subsidized by governments, by traditional donors, and they are not market driven per se, because this is very challenging to achieve. So I think with this hackathon, please do think about a product that creates value along the value chain, be it on the food production or food distribution, but really try to spend some time on how can we actually monetize this and turn this into a profitable business model, because this is one of the toughest questions to crack.
But I want to ask specifically Jeremy and Ape, do you share this view that Sheila had about, you know, a lot of these innovations being concentrated on East Africa and they don't follow to the other countries? Or and then again also maybe for Ape, since you know, with your hub, why is it in East Africa? Why is it not outside?
Yeah, I think it's true. Several studies have shown that most of the innovation are concentrated in East Africa. I'm not truly sure what would have been the cause, because if you consider a country like Nigeria with our large population, that you know, such drive should have, you know, taken off from Nigeria. But if you ask me, I would say probably that one of the reasons would be lack of interest in the young people who are involved in developing this technology, working in the field of agriculture. So Nigeria is a very diverse country with a lot of energy and different kinds of resources. People are more or less likely to choose a different area of career other than agriculture, including those who have skills to develop technological solutions. If you look at the trend in Nigeria with respect to technological solutions and adoption in Nigeria, you find out that there are more of solutions in fintech, more of solutions in health tech, more of solutions in something like civil tech and all that, compared to ag tech. And this is one of the reasons why we actually started the Green Rise Up, because we did a survey and we realized that this is exactly what is happening. Young people who have skills to develop solutions are more interested in other aspects where they think that they will make money maybe much more faster. The notion that agriculture is not going to be a sustainable business for someone may be also a factor. So nobody wants to go into it. Nobody wants to, you know, spend time developing solutions in a sector that they feel that they will not make returns as quickly as possible. So I think probably that would be one of the reasons: the fact that people who have skills tend to, you know, go towards other sectors of the economy other than agriculture. And we also noticed that there is a little bit of support to young people who are interested in agriculture. So there's, irrespective of the fact that a lot of young people with skills to develop solutions are working in other sectors, the little that are interested in agriculture don't have the needed support that they would have, you know, utilized to go on and develop solutions that will contribute to food security in Africa. Support in terms of financing of their business ideas, and solutions in terms of mentoring, solutions in terms of understanding what is the need of the farmers in order to develop a business model that will actually fit into those solutions. All these are, you know, issues that I feel probably may have been contributing to the fact that most of the solutions are concentrated in East Africa. There could be other factors, but really, if you compare it with my country, where I understand what is happening, I feel that this is what is going on. The fact that the young people are more interested in working in those areas because they feel that there is more support. And basically, there is more support there. If you look at the amount of investment that have gone out in the past years to all the sectors, you find out that agriculture is also ranked very low compared to other sectors. You know, so all these things are indicators that young people who have skills and potentials to bring in solutions look at, and all these things tend to also determine the decisions they make. You know, affect the decisions they make, whether they should, you know, bring in their skills into this sector.
Let me try to ask you or ask all the panelists from a different angle. You know, Africa is the youngest continent, average age under 20 years old. There is, looking at the amount of teams working on this topic during this hackathon, there seems to be an interest. I think your role, Ape, Sheila, Jeremy, is also to try to make, the agri-tech food security issue sexy. Let's try to also see that there is an opportunity. Mr. Elumelu yesterday was calling out, and he does often, that for investors that, Africa is a land of opportunities. There is a lot of opportunities there in this field, as we've discussed today, not just on the farmers, but the whole supply chain. So what would be your pitch to make people understand that there is opportunity, there is money to be made? The business models might not be there yet, but they are evolving, they are coming. And so how can we make this sector sexy? Sheila, you mentioned that you come from a background, your family was working on this. Ape, you mentioned that the youth is not interested because perhaps they look at agriculture as they did in their parents' generation, where it was probably more of a sustenance point of view, not from a business point of view. So how can we address the youth of Africa to take on these challenges seriously, but also understand that there is opportunity there? Sheila, perhaps we begin with you.
When we look at the 33 million that are registered on digital platforms for AgTech, 70% are the youth. So there's hope that this can be scaled up and more youth can, join these platforms. Yes, there's been, in the last 10 years or so, there's been a lot of discussion of, the youth, this agriculture and that. The youth are very high tech. They want, they're into the cell phones, they're into digital stuff. And so we must tailor agriculture, even at smallholder level, to speak to what the youth would want: clean agriculture. So looking at precision agriculture, looking at, we've seen tomatoes nowadays grown in greenhouses where you don't see any dirt. We've seen technologies move that dirt is not at the forefront of agriculture. We've seen people do agriculture wearing white trousers. That is what the youth is looking for. The youth is looking for agriculture that is attractive. And attractive includes technology and digitization. And that is why 70% of the 33 million farmers registered on these platforms are the youth. In this hackathon, we have primarily the youth trying to come up with these solutions to support the sector. They know very well that these solutions are attractive to the youth because they are cleaner. Now, I just give the example. There are greenhouses today of tomatoes that you don't see a speck of dust. That's the kind of way in which we need to take agriculture for the youth. They are able to grow, all sorts of horticultural products and produce under conditions that really are clean. And digitalization or technology is used to onward sell these products or produce. So we should enhance on those. Then for the rest of of Africa, we need to look at exchange programs. Why is it that East Africa is highly concentrated? We need to be able to bring North Africa on the table. We need to be able to bring West Africa, Central Africa, Southern Africa. When you look at South Africa, it has 51% of those with smartphones, but we still have a very low uptake of smallholder farmers. Southern Africa remains also very poor outside South Africa on uptake of, utilization of digitization. So there is room for the youth to come up with very many products that address the digital side, and again, we are also able to learn from Europe and the Americas on technologies that make agriculture cleaner. There's precision agriculture that is being practiced nowadays. We have the likes of John Deere that have tractors, even small ones, that are able to plow farms. And at the back of the tractor, there's a gadget there that is able to analyze soils and all this, and is able to, based on that, be able to apply fertilizers
as needed around the fields. So there's a lot that can be done in this space by those participating in this hackathon. And we need to really, really borrow from what is working well in East Africa and be able to stretch that out to West Africa, to Central Africa, to Southern Africa. We can learn from each other. And in this hackathon, maybe there should be an opportunity for the youth to be able to exchange ideas. Why is it working where it is working? And then take those learnings and scale them up to the other regions. Thank you.
Yeah, and Sheila, those are also some of the thoughts and the words shared by the president of Estonia when she was opening the hackathon and the conference yesterday about this interchange of ideas and benefiting from working with teams across different countries and across different continents to make sure that this knowledge exchange happens. And perhaps at some point when borders open again, we can actually do a physical exchange. Jeremy, I would like to ask you, you're concentrated in East Africa. First of all, my quest to you is, how can you make bring sexy back to the agriculture field or the food sector fields, but also a little bit about if I'm a young graduate and I have a field of different tech startups that I can join. Ape was talking about in Nigeria, the health tech, fintech, those sectors. Perhaps there is money there, and I'm attracted to that. So my question to you is there money in foods tech? And what is your pitch? How can you bring sexy back to this sector?
Yeah, thank you for this question. And I actually think that I'm very hopeful here. And I actually think that it is sexy and it's becoming even sexier. So I think, Sheila, you touched upon making it attractive for youth, so having solution design around tech and so on. And that's definitely something that we've seen. We've been working with Kusa, for example, which is one startup which is recruiting, onboarding and training youth to become extension workers. So basically youth agripreneurs. And this has scaled significantly in the past year. Youth, they don't want to do traditional farming. They don't want to do subsistence farming. So I think at the moment we're seeing transformation of food system and so on. And at the end, to make it sexy, there needs to be strong income opportunities for those youth. Yeah, I think that's one key parameter here. You were talking about John Deere earlier. When we look at all the large corporations operating in more developed market in the agri sector, for them, Africa is a land full of promise. Yeah, given the challenges that they face, given the level of yield per acre, which is way lower than in Europe or in the US, for example, there is a lot of opportunity for those corporations, and that's basically where the next growth wave is actually going to come. So we see more and more funding being dedicated to the agri sector. This is going to generate additional income opportunities for all those youth and farmer. And I think what's important, and maybe one advice also for people developing a solution in this hackathon, is to integrate youth, but also women in the design of your solution. Yeah, as you said, the median age in most countries here is around 18 years old. It's a very young population. So you have to design your solution with this in mind. And I think, agri sector is a sector which is already very sexy. So we are working, for example, with a HubPrize, which is a global startup competition for students, and the topic is on food for good. When we look at Africa, more than 400 universities actually sign up and are participating in this competition. We had more than 1,000 students registering to our support program. So I think the interest is there. The willingness to change the status quo and improve the food security from the young generation is there. And ultimately, they are the ones which are going to lead the change and make significant strides to improve food security in the region.
Jeremy, I think you touched upon an interesting subject that I'd like to explore a little bit more before we run out of time. The role of women in this field, in food security. So what are your thoughts there, and what are some of the issues surrounding that?
Yeah, so I think Sheila and Ape, feel free to step in here as well. Just very quickly, we know that unlocking the power of women is something that is truly needed to be able to really harness the potential behind stronger food production and stronger food systems. So in a lot of countries, women are not really recognized. At the end of the day, they are probably the one having the strongest impact and the strongest involvement when it comes to both food production, but also food distribution. You're going to see like a lot of trader retailers being owned by women. So I think we really need to turn a bit the coin on this and take them as one of the main stakeholders and one of the main driver of change.
Sheila, Ape, any thoughts there?
Yeah, well, to add to that, one of the things we've noticed actually at the Green Rise Up, we've just developed a program that is focused specifically on women in agri-food tech, which we will launch hopefully next year. And the first part of it is to conduct a survey to understand the the status of women in ag tech across Africa. It's going to be an Africa-wide study. We want to do that study for about three months to understand better what is happening within the continent, and then we will move whatever solution, problems we identify into developing solutions to meet them in terms of creating a program that is specifically built for women in ag tech. And why we're doing this is that we've come across a study that is done in the US comparing women founders and co-founders to male founders and co-founders in terms of funding gap. And you will be really, really shocked at the gap, the gap between funding access for women who are in agri-food tech compared to those who are male founders. The gap is so wide that we feel that it is one of the reasons why women are not able to play major role in the sector, even though they are more of them are into the business in Africa, and so we're going to look at that, and hopefully that will give us an idea on what to do to contribute to that. Basically, I feel that one of the major problems is the gap between male founders and co-founders in terms of investment. It looks like investors are more interested in supporting male-led organizations, which shouldn't be so, because we have more women who are working in the sector and producing more.
Exactly. So beyond even just the funding issue and the founders, co-founders issue, Sheila, if I can direct to you this question, just the role of women on the whole, agriculture, food security, supply chain issues, and perhaps some of the solutions that are being developed during this hackathon, taking women as the target audience for their solutions. What's your take on that?
Firstly, without women supporting crop production in Africa, we would not have food. It's very simple, because women are the particularly smallholder. It is women who till the land. It is the women who produce the food. It is the women who harvest. Yet the women don't own the land, and at the end of the day, they mostly don't even take the surplus from their, any money made from the fields to their pockets. It is taken by the men. So the women and food security is a topic that can be discussed a whole day, but the real issues here, women don't own land. The surplus does not go into them, but they are the center of ensuring Africa is fed. We all know that when you train a woman, you train a community, because she trains her children. Her children are both men and boys and girls, so they grew up knowing what needs to be done. But the issue with women is that since they don't own the land, sometimes decisions made on that land is really even beyond them, because the land is owned by the men, because we particularly and primarily in Africa live in a patriarchal society. So, but when women enter this space and are drivers, we see great change. We see women because they are leaders in growing those crops.
targeting women for tech solutions would really support them, because the woman wakes up in the morning, she has to take care of her household, feed her household, till the land, grow the food, harvest the food, then put food on the table. So if there are solutions that can be targeted to lessen the burden on the woman at this point still uses the hoe to dig the land. It needs to have been retired to a museum, but they're still using that as a tool of trade. If we can get solutions, even from start at that level, bits of mechanization that is able to help them, and then the solutions we're talking about, how do they understand their fields better to be able to maximize production on the small fields they have, using, tilling the land using the hoes. There's a lot that can go into supporting women in agriculture, particularly the smallholder woman, because she carries the burden of African smallholder agriculture. Thank you.
I think here, I'm glad that we ended up also exploring this topic, because it's about the production, but also at the end of the day, the women are also primarily the ones who are taking care of the food that ends up on the table. So when we talk of issues surrounding the quality of food, then a lot of those decisions are also on the hands of women. And as Jeremy pointed out, if you look at the markets in Africa, then a lot of the people selling that are women. So for sure, hopefully a lot of technology solutions will be targeted towards this specific demographic, which is oftentimes overlooked. We're almost running out of time, so before we do exit the panel, which I think has been fantastic and a lot of important issues have been raised, I'd like to give the floor to you to perhaps give some words of encouragement to the hackathon participants who are hacking away during the 72 hours, hopefully a lot of them coming up with solutions by Sunday. So some words of encouragement from your sides to keep them going and develop solutions and see that there are opportunities not just in East Africa, but across all of Africa. And perhaps I would end it just with some thoughts, because it is a EU-Africa collaboration. So, if you look at startups launching in Europe, we also often talk about it's difficult to penetrate different markets because of language barriers. If you go to the US, it's a little bit easier because it's one single market. Jeremy, Ape, you guys have on-the-ground experience with startups who want to penetrate into Africa. So what would be your advice for some of these new ideas coming up so that they can get the support and get the exposure to as much possible footprint on the ground? And yes, just finally some words of encouragement to our participants.
Okay, so my advice would be to make sure that they actually understand their customers, the people they are trying to solve their problems, so that they can build something that will actually be used. Because most of the times the problems are there, we're interested in trying to solve the problems. So we go out there to try to provide solutions, but we need to make sure that we understand what the problem is before we begin to build, so that we don't build what people do not need, especially with respect to Africa, especially with respect to rural farmers. Like we've mentioned, highlighted severally by the panelists as well. These people, some of them have issues with literacy, some of them have issues with data access, some of them have issues with the use of some of these technologies. So as we build, we must make sure that we align our solution to customer needs, so that whatever we build will meet those particular needs. In terms of encouraging them, I want everyone who is working on a solution or on an idea on this hackathon to know that you are a key player, you are a stakeholder in ensuring food security in the continent. When every man or every woman has an opportunity to have a plate of food on his table or her table, know that you are contributing to make that a success. So that should be an encouragement to you, that even when you try to find a solution and it looks like you're not having a headway, just know that what you need to do is to be committed to your ideas, committed to your solutions, committed to the work you're doing, knowing that you're doing a very, very important work that the world truly needs. The world needs people like you to make sure that by 2050 we have enough food to feed the growing population.
Thank you, Ape. Allow me to step in also here, like relatively quickly. So advice to enter the African market if those innovators are based in Europe, for example, is to leverage this hackathon, to leverage this opportunity to try to make strong connection with local partners, which could become local implementing partner. Please do talk to mentors, to experts based here in Africa. They're going to challenge your approach, they're going to challenge your solution, your value proposition. They're going to shed lights on some operating aspects you might not have considered. So please do use this opportunity. And for me, this wrapping up the year with such an event is really a message of hope. As we've seen, food security, we have many challenges with food security in Africa. On the other side of the coin, that means that there are many opportunities, and Africa has the potential, the resource to become food secure and even feed part of the world. So a lot of hope relies on you, and there is definitely strong opportunities that you can harness, and I'm looking forward to see the solution coming out of those 3-day hackathon.
Thank you. Sheila, some words for the participants.
Yes, you are game changers. Know that. You are game changers, and we're relying on you to bring out solutions that can help Africa move forward in food security. There's a lot of untapped potential. As we just said, a lot of the solutions are concentrated in East Africa. Africa has 1.3 billion people. Only 33 million people are registered on AgTech platforms. We have a long way to go. For those, well, we have those in Europe, we have those in Africa. Collaboration is key, because there are those who understand the continent, and then there are those in Europe who understand solutions that have worked in Europe that can already be scaled up in Africa. But you need to collaborate with those in Africa who understand the footprint, who understand the challenges, and who understand the ground. So collaboration would be the way to go. Remember, most of these solutions will be targeted at the youth, who I guess even most of you in the hackathon are, young. As we say, the word sexy keeps coming up, the word attractive keeps coming up. You need to have attractive solutions that draw the youth to utilize them. Mobile money is a good example. M-Pesa, to be specific, again, I go back to Kenya. M-Pesa is an example of a technology that everybody, all that has crossed divides, the rich, the poor, the old, the illiterate, everybody uses mobile money. Develop such applications that everybody is able to use. And while at it, do not forget the older generation who are still farming and still using mobile phones. They also require some of these solutions. So look at those with smartphones, look at those with basic phones, and remember, Africa has 1.3 billion people, 250 million people in smallholder farming. There is untapped potential. We wish you the very best, and I thank you for having me on this panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sheila. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Ape, for this very interesting panel, which opens up the possibilities for the teams working on this hackathon in the issue of food security, which is, again, one of the most popular topics out of the 300 teams that we have hacking away. So to all of you innovators, disruptors, future entrepreneurs, there is a lot of potential in this field. Pay attention to your users, try to make attractive solutions that will be adopted by them, and we will see the final solutions on Sunday. I hope that Jeremy, Sheila, and Ape would also pay attention to those solutions and keep an eye out for the best teams. There is support out there for some of these ideas to move forwards in incubators, accelerators across Africa and Europe, so definitely stay tuned for that. But for now, go back to work if you're watching us. We will be back with the next panel on vulnerable populations in about 20 minutes. Thank you once again to all our panelists, and thank you to all of you watching at home.
Thank